Hello, Professor Lamanna. This is Vivek Brain speaking. I believe you should be able to see quite clearly the image before me. I have a two-part, or rather a two-image portion presentation. And I'm going to be talking, as mentioned earlier, about flow states, peak performance, subject familiarity, etc. And I believe this model of conceiving of student familiarity with subject matter is going to be very helpful for posterity, whether or not you implement anything that deals with it. So, as you can see, it says, key stages of mastery pertains to skills and information alike. There are three stages. One, effortful engagement, or the familiarization stage, which functions according to the operative ethic of observe and then abandon or progress past initial discomforts. Two is semi-effortful engagement, which involves rehearsal, partial recall, and the operative ethic involves exhaustion in practice and skill acquisition. And three is effortless engagement. This is the stage at which one has access to interpretive liberty, sustained creativity, and so on. And you maintain access to number three by way of rehearsing your familiarization with something. So, a creative interpretation of a Vivaldi violin piece is accessed only after the initial mastery, or at least a recurrently creative interpretation is accessed under those conditions. And I've written a little note here. To recurrently access stage 3, one can and must tap flow triggers, as unveiled by Stephen Kotler, in order to have full in-the-moment concentration and retention. The time-bending brain, quote-unquote, evidenced by David Eagleman, functions best in a perceived emergency situation, which remarkably enhances information recall. But one does not need an actual emergency to trigger peak skill and absorption, only a simulated emergency. I should note that I suppose a violin example that pertains to these stages of mastery was plucked from the kooky, crazy YouTube artist who goes by the name of Frank Yang. I can't recall the title of the video I've referenced, but it's somewhere out there. I can find it if you'd like me to. And the information dealing with Stephen Kotler and David Eagleman is in distilled form, at least, on the YouTube channel Big Think. So here's part 2, which is actually the class-relevant material. So in terms of the stage 1, the prefrontal neocortex engagement, the effortful engagement, I put circ. And one moment, let me check my class notes. Sorry. So, he alleges that if we journey away from the linear norm of essayist prose, we can, I guess we have to ask ourselves where we go, especially with respect to the quote-unquote composition classroom. And I must say, the receptivity inhibitors that make that an effortful engagement are merely my antiquarian essay love and neo-Luddite tendencies and so on that I've littered about class assignments and discussions really often. And I've left a note here that says, with enough training in counter-research and hatred, I can channel this to stage 3. Hence how political and religious opponents so persistently read on and fillet their opposers. So the equation is stage 1 plus emotional anchoring through humor, hatred, love, pain, etc. Equals stage 2, eventually stage 3 access. Stage 2 is midbrain recruitment. Herein I've put Johnson, Ilola, Selber, Kress, and etc. And of course the ideas for Johnson Ilola involve, I suppose, meaning and I suppose meaning being an inheritance and a conglomeration of influences rather than the production of agency, pure agency. Selber deals with different brands of literacies, and Kress deals with multimodal composition and the triumph of image over text. So receptivity inhibitors are determinism of meaning and idea seems fatalistic and revolting. Selber's terminology seems unexportable to frequent conversation. It's rather high-minded and multisyllabic, and people tend to glaze over when one unveils those terms, unfortunately, and thus it's hyper-specialized. Kress's idea breakdown is convoluted and verbose to me, and it requires the Feynman technique, which is a method of distilling down even highly academic or complicated knowledge to that which you could instruct to a layman or a 5-year-old. And receptivity organelles include the fact that human affair determinism and image trumping text notions are both familiar debates or contexts, and alternative schooling methods, as in those outlined by Alfie Kohn, are also familiar. Stage 3, the brainstem, the primal instinctive. So as you can see, things move from effortful to semi-effortful to effortless. Whether or not this is precisely accurate is not my concern. I'm merely providing a useful metaphor. So Barron, Blackman, Plato's Cave, multimodal thinkers, including Wysocki, Takayoshi, and Plato, make it here. And major receptivity organelles include Nicholas Carr, his blog Rough Type, his book The Shallows, his later effort The Glass Cage, and those make the ideas of Blackman, which involve background sense, a desire to jack into cyberspace isn't present at birth. They involve they involve Barron as well, in that we have a way of getting so used to writing technologies that we come to think of them as natural rather than technological. Carr deals with that extensively with his techno-skeptical writing. Wysocki, Self, and Takayoshi are naturally the multimodal thinkers, and I'm rather familiar with the subtleties of those debates at this point. And Plato is simply redundant with regard to anyone who deals with philosophy from a formative or even a non-precocious stage. And I've mentioned that my technophobe parents sort of buttered my brain up for engagement with Nicholas Carr and that sort of thing. So I've used, I took photos of class presentations to supply fodder for my own here, and might have drawn mostly upon the quotes that Tyler gave in his presentation, since I found them to be the most tasteful in their subject matter and in their summarizing. So that's kind of the basics of my presentation. If there's anything else you'd like me to do, please let me know, and thank you for withstanding my babble, and have a great day, a great week, a great summer. Thank you.